This time we're going to read chapter 3 called Canada. Now, if you missed in one of my other videos, I had mentioned that we follow along with a pen because the reason why I don't normally read with a pen, but the reason why I include following along with a pen is because it makes the video less boring. Okay, so let's read. Okay, Musk's great escape to Canada was not well thought out. He knew of a great uncle in Montreal, hopped on a flight, and hoped for the best. Upon landing in June 1989, Musk found a payphone and tried to use directory assistance to find his uncle. When that didn't work, he called his mother Colette. She had bad news. May had sent a letter to the uncle before Musk left and received a reply while her son was in transit. The uncle had gone to Minnesota, meaning Musk had nowhere to stay. Bags in hand, Musk headed for a youth hostel. After spending a few days in Montreal exploring the city, Musk tried to come up with a long-term plan. May had family scattered all across Canada, and Musk began reaching out to them. He bought a countrywide bus ticket that let him hop on and off as he pleased for $100 and opted to head to Saskatchewan, the former home of his great-grandfather. After a 1,900-mile bus ride, he ended up in Swift Current, a town of 15,000 people. Musk called a second cousin out of the blue from the bus station and hitched a ride to his house. Musk spent the next year working a series of odd jobs around Canada. He tended vegetables and shoveled out grain bins at a cousin's farm located in the tiny town of Waldeck. Musk celebrated his 18th birthday there, sharing a cake with the family he just met and a few strangers from the neighborhood. After that, he learned to cut logs with a chainsaw in Vancouver, British Columbia. The hardest job Musk took came after a visit to the unemployment office. He inquired about the job with the best wage, which turned out to be a gig cleaning the boiler room of a lumber mill for $18 an hour. You have to put on this hazmat suit and then shimmy through this little tunnel that you can barely fit in, Musk said. Then you have a shovel and you take the sand and goop and other residue, which is still steaming hot, and you have to shovel it through the same hole you came through. There is no escape. Someone else on the other side has to shovel it into a wheelbarrow. If you stay in there for more than 30 minutes, you get too hot and die. 30 people started out at the beginning of the week. By the third day, 5 people were left. At the end of the week, it was just Musk and 2 other men doing the work. As Musk made his way around Canada, his brother, sister, and mother were figuring out how to get there as well. When Kimball and Elon eventually reunited in Canada, their headstrong, playful natures bloomed. Elon ended up enrolling at Queen's University in Kingston. I think I'm going to go ahead and include these down here, and these things in asterisk. When May went to Canada to check out places to live, a 14-year-old Tosca seized the moment and put the family house in South Africa up for sale. She had sold my car as well and was in the midst of putting out furniture up for sale too, May said. When I got back, I asked her why. She said, "There's no need to delay. We are getting out of here." Well, Elon ended up enrolling at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario in 1989. He picked Queen's over the University of Waterloo because he felt there were more good-looking women at Queen's. Outside of his studies, Elon would read the newspaper alongside Kimball, and the two of them would identify interesting people they would like to meet. And then they took turns cold calling these people to ask if they were available to have lunch. Among the harassed was the head of marketing for the Toronto Blue Jays baseball team, a business writer for the Globe and Mail, and a top executive at the Bank of Nova Scotia, Peter Nicholson. Nicholson remembered the boys' call well. "I was not in the habit of getting out of the blue requests," he said. "I was perfectly prepared to have lunch with a couple of kids that had the kind of gumption it took 6 months to get on Nicholson's calendar, but sure enough, the Musk brothers made a 3-hour train ride and showed up on time." My voice went lower because I do have to honor the ASMR community. Moving on. Nicholson's first exposure to the Musk brothers left him with an impression many would share. Both presented themselves well and were polite. Elon, though, clearly came off as the geekier, more awkward counterpoint to the charismatic, personable Kimball. I became more impressed and fascinated as I talked to them. Nicholson said they were so determined. Nicholson ended up offering Elon a summer internship at the bank and became his trusted advisor. Not long after their initial meeting, Elon invited Peter Nicholson's daughter, Christy, to his birthday party. Christy showed up at May's Toronto apartment with a jar of homemade lemon curd in hand, and it was greeted by Elon and about 15 other people. Elon had never met Christy before, but he went right up to her and led her to a couch. Then I believe the second sentence out of his mouth was, "I think a lot about electric cars," Christy said, and then he turned to me and said, "Do you think about electric cars?" The conversation left Christy, who is now a science writer, with the distinct impression that Musk was handsome, affable, and tremendous. Was a that needs to have an A right there. Was handsome, affable, and a tremendous nerd. For whatever reason, I was so struck by that moment on the sofa. She said you could tell that this person was very different. He captivated me in that way. With her angular features and blonde hair, Christy fit Musk's type, and the two stayed in touch during Musk's time in Canada. They never really dated, but Christy found Musk interesting enough to have lengthy conversations with him on the phone. One night he told me if there was a way that I could not eat, so I could work more, I would not eat. I wish there was a way to get nutrients without sitting down for a meal. The enormity of his work ethic at that age and his intensity jumped out. It seemed like one of the more unusual things I had ever heard. A deeper relationship during this stint in Canada arose between Musk and Justine Wilson, a fellow student at Queen's. Leggy with long brown hair, Wilson radiated romance and sexual energy. Justine had already fallen in love with an older man and then ditched him to go to college. Her next conquest was meant to wear a leather jacket and be a damaged James Dean sort. As fortune would have it, however, the clean-cut, posh-sounding Musk spotted Wilson on campus and went right to work trying to date her. She looked pretty great, Musk said. She was also smart and this intellectual with sort of an edge. She had a black belt in Taekwondo and was semi-bohemian and, like the hot chick on campus. He made his first move just outside of her dorm, where he pretended to have bumped into her by accident and then reminded her that they had met previously at a party. Justine, only a week into school, agreed to Musk's proposal of an ice cream date. When he arrived to pick up Wilson, Musk found a note on the dorm room door notifying him that he'd been stood up. It said that she had to go study for an exam and couldn't make it, and that she was sorry, Musk said. And Musk then hunted down Justine's best friend and did some research, asking where Justine usually studied and what her favorite flavor of ice cream was. Later, as Justine hid in the student center studying Spanish, Musk appeared behind her with a couple of melting chocolate chip ice cream cones in hand. Wilson had dreamed of having a torrid romance with a writer. "I wanted to be Sylvia and Ted," she said. What she fell for instead was a relentless, ambitious geek. The pair attended the same abnormal psychology class and compared their grades following an exam. Justine notched a 97, Musk a 98. He went back to the professor and talked his way into the 2 points he lost and got 100, Justine said. It felt like we were always competing. Musk had a romantic side as well. One time he sent Wilson a dozen roses each with its own note, and he also gifted Wilson a copy of The Prophet, filled with handwritten romantic musings. He can sweep you off your feet, Justine said. During their university years, the two youngsters were off and on, with Musk having to work hard to keep the relationship going. She was hip and dated the coolest guys and wasn't interested in Elon at all, May said. So that was hard on him. Musk pursued a couple of other girls, but kept returning to Justine. Anytime she acted cool toward him, Musk responded with his usual show of force. He would call very insistently, she said. You always knew it was Elon because the phone would never stop ringing. The man does not take no for an answer. You can't blow him off. I do think of him as the Terminator. He locks his gaze onto something and says, "It shall be mine." Bit by bit, he won me over. College student Musk, he worked on being less of a know-it-all, while also finding a group of people who respected his intellectual abilities. The university students were less inclined to laugh off to deride his opinionated takes on energy, space, and whatever else was captivating him at the moment. Musk had found people who responded to his ambition rather than mocking it, and he fed on this environment. Navaid, sorry, baby. I just had to check something. Navaid Farouk, a Canadian who grew up in Geneva, ended up in Musk's freshman year dormitory in the fall of 1990. Both men were placed in the international section where a Canadian student would get paired with a student from overseas. Musk sort of broke the system since he technically counted as a Canadian but knew almost nothing about his surroundings. I had a roommate from Hong Kong and he was a really nice guy. Musk said he religiously attended every lecture, which was helpful since I went to the least number of classes possible. For a time, Musk sold computer parts and full personal computers in the dorm to make some extra cash. I could build something to suit their needs, like a tricked out gaming machine or a simple word processor that costs less than what they could get in a store, Musk said, or if their computer didn't boot properly or had a virus, I'd fix it. I could pretty much solve any problem. Farouk and Musk bonded over their backgrounds living abroad and a shared interest in strategy board games. I don't think he makes friends easily, but he is very loyal to those he has, Farouk said. When the video game Civilization was released, the college chums spent hours building their empire, much to the dismay of Farouk's girlfriend, who was forgotten in another room. Elon could lose himself for hours on end, Farouk said. The students also relished their longer lifestyles. We are the kinds of people that can be loner lifestyles. Sorry, that didn't sound right. Longer, so it's loner, of course. We are the kinds of people that can be by ourselves at a party and not feel awkward, Farouk said. We can think to ourselves and not feel socially weird about it. Musk was more ambitious in college than he'd been in high school. He studied business, competed in public speaking contests, and began to display the brand of intensity and competitiveness that marks his behavior today. After one economics exam, Musk, Farouk, and some other students in class came back to the dorms and began comparing notes to try to ascertain how well they did on the test. It soon became clear that Musk had a firmer grasp on the material than anyone else. Firmer grasp. This was a sort of fairly high achievers. This was a group of fairly high achievers, and Elon stood way outside of the bell curve, Farouk said. Musk's intensity has continued to be a constant in their long relationship. When Elon gets into something, he develops just this different level of interest in it than other people. That is what differentiates Elon from the rest of humanity. In 1992, having spent 2 years at Queen's, Musk transferred to the University of Pennsylvania on a scholarship. Musk saw the Ivy League school as possibly opening some additional doors and went off in pursuit of dual degrees, from first an economics degree from the Wharton School and then a bachelor's degree in physics. Justine stayed at Queen's, pursuing her dream of becoming a writer, and maintained a long-distance relationship with Musk. Now and again, she would visit him, and the two would sometimes head off to New York for a romantic weekend. Musk blossomed even more at Penn and really started to feel comfortable while hanging out with his fellow physics students. At Penn, he met people that thought like him, May said. There were some nerds there. He so enjoyed them. I remember going for lunch with them and they were talking physics things. They were saying A plus B equals pi squared or whatever. They would laugh out loud. It was cool to see him so happy. Once again, however, Musk did not make many friends among the broader school body. It's difficult to find former students who remember him being there at all, but he did make one very close friend named Adio Resi, who would go on to be a Silicon Valley entrepreneur in his own right and is to this day as tight with Elon as anyone else. Resi is a lanky guy well over 6 feet tall and possesses an eccentric air. He was the artistic, colorful foil to the studious, more buttoned up Musk. Both of the young men were transfer students and end up being placed in the funky freshman dorm. The lackluster social scene did not live up to Resi's expectations, and he talked Musk into renting a large house off campus. They got the 10. You know what? We're going to just go ahead and start off on this page next time. But thanks for stopping by.